They had come in their thousands, once again calling for Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha to resign. The protesters vowed to remain until their demands were met. The next morning, the government hit back. It arrested opposition leaders and removed demonstrators camped out in front of the Prime Minister's office. It also banned gatherings of more than 5 people and the publication of news it deems a security threat. The anti-government rallies started in July. Apart from fresh elections and a new constitution, the opposition also wants to limit the powers of the king, which has not gone down well with Thai royalists. I think the royalist supporters are out here because they love the country. We love the country as well. I'm not worried about violence because both sides are doing what they think is best for the country. But scuffles did break out between opponents and supporters of the monarchy. Thailand's royal family is backed by the military and traditionally revered by the population. But King Maha Vajiralongkorn is less popular than his father, who died in 2016. The king's motorcade met with chants and a 3-fingered salute, unthinkable in earlier times. The gesture has become a pro-democracy symbol, borrowed from the Hunger Games film series about a totalitarian regime. Harsh laws have stifled public criticism of the monarchy, but the king has stirred dissent with his extravagant lifestyle and long holidays abroad during the pandemic. Opposition leader Anon Nampa called out the king on stage during the protests. Our king does not reside in Thailand. I'd like to ask directly, what's so bad about living in Thailand? He was later arrested. With the anger boiling over, the government is keen to put a lid on the protests any way it can.
Well, for more now, I'm joined by Professor Titinan Pongsudirak at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok. Professor, protests are nothing new in Thailand, but these seem different. What's driving people to take to the streets this time so persistently?
Well, if you follow Thai politics, we've seen street demonstrations and protests and polarization over the last 15 years, punctuated by 2 military coups in 2006, 2014, 2 new constitutions in 2007, 2017. This time, the protests are being led by a different generation, and they're making different demands. And this is a younger generation, younger voices, basically people under their 40s. I mean, people in their 20s and 30s, they have seen over the last 15 years that, they have no future because Thailand is at a standstill. Thailand is beset by nepotism, corruption, economic mismanagement, no growth strategy going forward. So for them, these younger people, younger demographics, they want to reclaim their future for jobs, for livelihoods, and so on. They're also making a different kind of demands. This for Thailand is a profoundly new set of demands to call for the Prime Minister's resignation. We've seen that kind of demand before, but a new constitution in order to reset, to recalibrate, remake Thai democracy into a genuine democratic system. And then most profound of all, that we've not heard of before, is unprecedented, is the reform of the monarchy. And these 3 demands are a tall order for Thailand. Yet, these young people are not going to go away because they want their future back. They want Thailand to move ahead. So we're seeing a lot of tension now because they're not being accommodated. There's no concession, no compromise, only a crackdown.
You mentioned the monarchy. Kings are traditionally revered in Thai society. Why have the protesters turned against the monarchy, and how significant is this?
Well, if you look at Thailand from outside, you have to understand that Thailand as we know it today, and this is a significant country, 70 million people population, 20th most populous country in the world, has a sizable GDP, is a main country in the hub of mainland Southeast Asia. So it's an important country, and this country has been known. All what we know about Thailand comes from the one reign under the throne, the reign of King Rama IX, King Bhumibol, the late king, and now there's a new monarch. So it's a new era. The reason people are so respectful and they find the late king, so popular is because we went through communist threat, under the communist threat. So we had this all around Thailand. You can see Indochina, Burma, and so on. A lot, the neighborhood had a hard time, but Thailand persevered and got through the communist era. At the same time, Thailand had economic development, and the late king devoted himself to the betterment of the country for Thailand's development. So people respected that, they appreciated that. But now with the new era, I think a lot of people also think that Thailand needs to change, to reform in order to move into the 21st century, in order to arrive in the 21st century, because the old institutions of the monarchy, the military, the bureaucracy, judiciary don't work the same way as they did before.
Okay. Let's get back to the crackdown that the government has launched now against the protesters. Do you think that that crackdown is likely to stop these protests?
In the short term, this is a very anxious, tense day in Bangkok, because the crackdown comes with a severe imposition of emergency decree, which means it has empowered the authorities to arrest, detain people. There's a kind of a suppression taking place now. Certainly in the short term, this means that the protest movement will face a setback, because the leaders will be arrested, and there'll be more arrests, I'm sure, some imprisonment. But in the longer term, it's not about the protesters and the protests. It's about the grievances that are backing them, that are behind them. So unless these grievances are addressed somehow, we will see them back for long.
Professor, thank you very much. We really appreciate your insights on this complex story. That was Professor Thitinan Pongsudhirak. Thank you very much.
Thank you.